Welcome in, everyone. Welcome back to your favorite fantasy football show. Isaac Durham here alongside Tarian Rogers, and we are your fantasy GMs. Week one is finally upon us. Tarian, how are you feeling,
Man, I'm
man?
amped, bro. Like it's like a kid on the first day of school. You got your gear ready. You're ready to stunt. Now that's how I feel now, man. Like ready to get the show on the road.
See, I was going to go with the same thing. You know, kid for the first day of school, but I didn't know if that sounded a little too nerdy. So I was going to say kid going on a roller coaster for his first time or something like that. I'm excited. A lot of people are excited right now. We have a lot to talk about in today's show. We're going to talk about Latavius Murray being cut, some waiver wires, start 'em, sit 'em, some streamers. But let's first start with the Ravens reshuffling their backfield. We have commenting, "What's up already?
What's up, bro?
All right, Ravens reshuffling the backfield. J.K. Dobbins obviously out for the season with a torn ACL. We talked about that last week. Just recently, Justice Hill, torn Achilles, also out for the entire season. So you got guys like Gus Edwards and undrafted rookie out of BYU, Tyson Williams. And just about an hour ago, the Ravens brought in Le'Veon Bell. They added him to their practice squad. He's going to be on the 53-man roster soon. Tarian, what do you think about all this?
Oh man, the Le'Veon Bell move is really intriguing because you guys know I've been big on Tyson Williams. I think that kid he's gonna get every chance to succeed as possible. And if he for somehow relinquishes the job, Le'Veon Bell's going to step in. And I think Le'Veon Bell, he's a capable veteran. He's the type of running back that the Ravens need. There was rumors of Todd Gurley. There's been rumors of Devontae Freeman going there. But I think Le'Veon Bell fits the mold of something that the Ravens want. They want a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield. They want a guy, that can run between the tackles. And he's a guy that's familiar with the division. You don't think that he would have the Steelers game circled on his calendar. You played them twice. It's a big division game. So he's a guy, as far as fantasy purpose is concerned, that I've seen a lot of people pick up. In my leagues, all my leagues, I've been in about 4 or 5 of them. He's gone in all of them. And I think he's a guy that you would probably want to stash and keep for later. He probably won't do anything the first 3 or 4 weeks because he's going to get acclimated. But maybe around week 4, week 5, it wouldn't shock me if they threw him in there. It kind of reminds me of the Dez Bryant situation last year, right, where they pick up Dez Bryant. He's a big name that we're familiar with. And you pick him up for the nostalgia purposes, and he comes in and he scores a few touchdowns. But I think that he'll have more of a say so. He'll have more touches just because of the position. And it's the Ravens. The Ravens love running backs, So he's a guy that I would fire up. Not now. I would sign him. I would hold him a little bit. Be patient with him. And around week 4 or 5, I think he'll get his touches.
Okay, so I'm gonna shift off of that and ask you a quick question. Would you rather put in a waiver claim on Tyson Williams, the guy you're hyping up last week, or would you put in a waiver claim for Le'Veon Bell right now? Or neither one of them?
Right now, the reason why I would say Le'Veon Bell is because he's gone right now. A lot of people are picking him up because he's Le'Veon Bell. So with the name and the allure, of course, the name is bigger than a Tyson Williams. So I would go Le'Veon Bell just because he probably wouldn't be available. And if you're thinking about one or the other, I would go him. But in the short term, I would say Tyson Williams just because we know that he's going to be playing.
Okay. Let's shift over to another running back topic. Earlier today, Latavius Saints, the two couldn't come to an agreement. Pretty much the Saints wanted him to take a pay cut. He didn't agree on the pay cut situation. So do we see some Tony Jones Jr. maybe elevate into some fantasy relevance or someone else? Like Tarian, I want to know who's impacted by this and who are you looking at because of this move?
With the Saints, they're a very tough team to call, especially with the running back position, because you already know Alvin Kamara is going to need his work. I'm big on Marquise Callaway at wide receiver, but I think this is more of a calling for Taysom Hill. He's going to get the short yardage carries, because you have that X factor and you have that weapon off the bench, that you could throw in gadget situations. And I think that is going to be more of a calling for him. They have other running backs, that you had mentioned before, but I think it's going to be Taysom Hill. He's going to get the work that Le'Veon Bell would get on the short yardage and things of that nature. And we're going to see him using more of a gadget situation, but it's hard because he's a quarterback. So it's like, where do you put him or slot him? So right now,
is he though? Is he?
Huh? He's not really
I
a
said, is he a
quarterback, but
quarterback?
as far as fantasy is concerned, like what I haven't seen a made up position for him. Like he's not an H. Like what would you put? I've seen him line up at running back one time in fantasy. I don't remember what it was, but they realized they made a mistake and they put him back at quarterback. So it's kind of to me it's kind of a hard situation to call. But if I want anybody on the Saints offense, it's Marquise Callaway. That's who I'm looking at on the Saints offense. It's him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if Taysom Hill does add another or gets added another position like last year where we saw him at like tight end, running back, I think that's when you pick him up. Like if he's not playing quarterback every week, that's the time to snag him.
Right.
And, a lot of people were mad last year that he was slated as a tight end the entire season. Wire pickup. Tarian, who are some players you're considering using a waiver claim on?
So for this week, some of the guys that I'm looking at, I'm really San Francisco 49er heavy. And I'm sorry, Walt, I don't know if you're still here. You were in the comment section earlier. But unfortunately, the 49ers do play the Lions this week. And I don't know what I'm getting from the Lions team. What up? Yeah, I don't know what I'm getting from the Lions team. Jimmy Garoppolo to me is a solid start. He gets his big guy back in George Kittle, and I mean, as much as we feel about Jimmy Garoppolo, he did take the team to the Super Bowl a few years ago, and he's not a bad quarterback. And I think this is one of those matchups to where he can score a lot of points just because we don't understand. We don't really know too much about this Lions team yet. They're making a huge transition over from one defensive scheme to another. So, and with the 49ers, they've been pretty consistent. I like a lot of 49ers players. I like Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously. I like Deebo Samuel. I like some of those guys, to step up and do something. I've been on Trey Sermon, but I don't know if this will be the week of Trey Sermon. I think Raheem Mostert might be the guy this week, that you would go with. But I mean, in future weeks, I think that Trey Sermon will end up becoming the guy. But I think this week it's the Niners. I like a lot of the Panthers players too, because I look at this for Sam Darnold as a revenge game versus the Jets. Like it's a revenge game. You always circle that one game, and I think this is the one game that you circle. He's going to want to outplay Zach Wilson. So I like him. I like Robbie Anderson. I like a lot of those Panthers players to get it done. So yep, I'm going Panthers.
Okay. So a waiver claim I would submit right now is on J.D. McKissick. He's like 36% owned right now in all leagues when you combine them. Obviously, there's all the chatter about Antonio Gibson taking over as maybe the new offense. You got Ron Rivera there. So, that's definitely a possibility. But I don't see how McKissick can, just lose a role after finishing as the running back 17 in PPR leagues last year. He was the running back 24 in half PPR leagues. So he was still relevant in those leagues. And then, like I said, Gibson's going to have a larger role, and that may be. But there's no way that McKissick isn't going to be heavily involved. He finished first in the league amongst running backs in total targets with 110 last season. And he trailed only Alvin Kamara in receptions amongst all running backs with 80. So it's just hard for me to imagine a guy like that not seeing, consistent playing time. And running backs are always a position that we could never get enough of for our fantasy teams. So finding a guy McKissick and maybe he, his first 8 games, he still has a good role, and then Gibson is just absolutely amazing. So he does lose his role, but right now that I really want to target, especially if you lack a lot of talent in your running back position so far starting out. All right, let's go over to some stardom situms. So I'm gonna give you scenarios, Tarian.
Okay.
But first, before we get into that, I want you to pick a player you're starting in this Thursday night's matchup between the Cowboys and Buccaneers.
For me, I like Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a guy, he's a dangerous threat in the red zone. He had 13 touchdowns last year. He's a guy that when it comes to wide receivers, he goes a little bit undervalued, I believe, third, fourth round usually. And I think he's a guy that in the goal line situations, I believe Tom Brady looks for him a lot, and it wouldn't shock me if he had a few touchdowns in the red zone, just because the Cowboys cornerback situation last year wasn't the best, and they didn't really do too much. I mean, they did some things, but little band-aids here and there to fix it. But I think that's a matchup that could be won, there. I think, another guy that has some intrigue is Gronk. We seen later in the stretch of last year, Gronk had some good games. And how, Tom Brady and Gronk's relationship is. So Gronk, is another guy. And I think Antonio Brown, that nutcase. Antonio Brown is a guy to me. There was a report today that Bruce Arians said he has a speed back. He looks like old Antonio Brown. So if that's the case, he's a guy that's a free agent in a lot of leagues, so he's a guy that you would want to swoop up. So I say Antonio Brown is another guy. So, just because, you're in the first week, a defense that's pretty brand new, your defensive coordinator is just coming off of COVID, and things of that nature. I think that the Buccaneers are going to want to throw the ball a lot. So it wouldn't shock me, if any of their wide receivers just go ham.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like Mike Evans more than Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown?
Yes, I do. Just because he gives you that 6'5" frame of where you can throw the ball up. He's a mismatch nightmare. 13 touchdowns is a lot. He averages anywhere between 10 to 11 touchdowns per year. So, I mean.
And he's also a guy that's never missed 1,000 yards
in
his entire career.
Right.
I'm not saying start this guy, but someone to keep an eye on is Giovanni Bernard. There's been a lot of talk, like, is he going to be involved in the passing game? And is he going to be the James White from New England that Tom Brady needs in Tampa Bay? Is he going to be the third down running back? Because the other two, Ronald Jones Jr. and Leonard Fournette, they're not really guys that are known for their pass catching abilities. So I think he's a guy to keep an eye on. And then obviously keep an eye on Dak as well. Him dealing with those. Interested to see how that whole Cowboys off in general looks this season. All right, let's get to the scenarios. Would you rather start Saquon Barkley against the Denver Broncos or Odell Beckham Jr. at the Kansas City Chiefs? Both guys who are coming off of season-ending injuries. They're both going to play in week 1, but we don't know how healthy they are. Who'd you rather pick?
Saquon Barkley, just because of the position, right? Saquon Barkley does a little bit of everything. He might get 15 carries and he might get, 6 or 7 touches out of the backfield. Joe Judge said he's going to get 83% of the touches. I don't know what 83% of the touches look like, but, you have to believe it's pretty significant.
Is he taking snaps too?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. But, if you guys are looking for somebody to just, I don't know, hide on your bench, Devontae Booker is a good guy. He can see some work on the goal line, just to spell him a bit. But I would say Saquon, just because, just the position.
Okay. Would you rather start Joe Burrow, the quarterback 16 through week 11 before his season-ending injury last season against the Vikings, or Kirk Cousins, last year's quarterback 11 against Burrow's Bengals? The game is in Cincinnati.
I would, I would probably go with Kirk Cousins, off the simple fact that I'm not too high on the Bengals defense. I've never really have been that high on the Bengals defense. And Kirk Cousins has some weapons around him. Don't be fooled. You got Dalvin Cook, you got, Jefferson, you got Thielen. They just picked up the tight end Herndon, so I don't know what he's going to look like, but he has some weapons on there. Burrow absolutely has weapons, but he's coming off the knee injury. I want to see how he reacts to the blitz, and his mobility a little bit, and they're going to test his mobility, I believe. So I don't think there's really that many question marks around Kirk Cousins, rather than just, do we like Kirk Cousins or not, so I would go Kirk Cousins.
Okay. And Minnesota's defense is definitely going to be improved this season, I believe.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, here's another one. You brought him up earlier. Raheem Mostert at the Detroit Lions or Myles Gaskin at New England Patriots? Who are you picking?
I'm going Mostert because, again, the Lions, I don't know what their defense is looking like. And we do know that Kyle Shanahan loves running the football. He loves establishing tempo and establishing his dominance early, and he likes to win games up front with the line of scrimmage. Myles Gaskin, he's a guy that I've heard a lot of hype about out of a Miami camp, but again, he's in a committee, and I don't really until we understand what that committee looks like. I don't know. It's just too hard to tell right now, you know. And
Yeah.
the Patriots defense is pretty respectable. They're very respectable, you know. So I think Mostert has the easier matchup. You know, no offense, well, if you're still watching, you know. I'm not saying you guys are a layup. I'm just saying, you know.
Oh, he knows they're a layup. He knows. He knows. Actually, a couple days ago, I saw a report that Miami's leaning on Myles Gaskin taking over as the
feature
three down back. Even though, I mean, I don't know if that's smoke or fire because all preseason, all offseason, they're saying that Malcolm Brown was going to be heavily involved, and they also like that Ahmed guy. So I don't know if I really believe that. I think Mostert is the safe pick, but I think Gaskin has a higher ceiling as far as this season. And then Walter, yeah, I heard that. Always clowning on the Lions. Any others you want to share? I'll get into my start of the week and sit of the week, but any other ones that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I gave a lot of word vomit on the Panther game. I like a lot of the Panthers just because, like I said, I think that's the one game that they're going to circle to want to win for their quarterback, Darnold. So I like a lot of those, you know, a lot of those guys. I would say a guy that I also have my eye on is Royce Freeman. They just picked him up from Denver off the waiver wire. And, you know, we shout out to Clayton. We know, you know, you're not going to do anything with Christian McCaffrey because, you know, that's death and taxes right there. But, I mean, I think that the simple fact that you pick up a Royce Freeman, you have some plans for him. So it wouldn't shock me, you know, if he did something, you know. But, yeah, I like any Panthers players that, you know, you can find.
That's a bold take right there. You would start Royce Freeman?
I wouldn't start Royce Freeman. Okay. He's a guy that, again, if you're in a deeper league, you need some running back help. He's a guy, like, you signed him for a reason. And we seen last year, you know, Christian McCaffrey wasn't the healthiest, and Mike Davis spelt him some, you know, and Mike Davis had some solid weeks. Royce Freeman could have some solid weeks, you know, theoretically, realistically. I do believe he could, just because the Panthers are a team that utilizes the running backs effectively.
I don't know. I think they really like the rookie Chuba Hubbard as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much, but obviously they like Freeman enough to submit a waiver claim for him.
Exactly.
And there were rumors that a couple other teams really wanted him as well. Who's a guy that you would sit this week?
Sitting. Let me see. I want to say Dak, right? Or okay. I want to say I want to say some of the Cowboys wide receivers, you know, it's the Buccaneers defense is coming in hot, you know, Dak, his health has been a concern all offseason, and it's just hard, you know, usually Thursday night games, you know, for the Super Bowl winning team, you know, they're getting the rings, you know, the banners comes down. We always see the best out of those type of teams, you know, in those situations. And it's really rare that the opposing team ever wins those games or the best players ever really look effective. And I'm just scared to understand what the Cowboys will look like. I don't know. You know, you're obviously not going to bench him because they're your best players. But it would not shock me if they some of them had bad weeks. It just would not shock me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have on one of my teams, I have Dak Prescott and Ryan Tannehill.
Okay.
Would you say it'd be safer, or would you start Tannehill instead of Dak just because of that injury concern and everything you just said?
I would say Tannehill because I believe that Cardinals game is going to be a shootout.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they're going to be in a position where you have to score a lot. You know, the Cardinals offense isn't nothing to sneeze at, and I don't trust the Titans defense. And I think they're going to put them in a position to score a lot, you know, that their defense, because, you know, who's facing them. So, yeah, I could see a 3-touchdown game for Ryan Tannehill. I really could.
Okay. And then he has that, you know, mobility effect
right.
as well, something that we probably won't see a lot from Dak this year just because of the injury. All right, so I'm going to jump into my start of the week. James Robinson at the Texans. I'm not saying that I believe in Robinson the whole season because you got, you know, like Carlos Hyde in there as well. But I like his matchup against Houston. He knows the team. He was the RB7 last year. He was the RB4 before they benched him the last two games because they were tanking, you know. But the Texans are just atrocious. I think everyone knows that. And like I said, Robinson has the background. We saw what he did last year. In his one game against Houston, he rushed for 99 yards and a touchdown. So I think it's a safe start. Kenny Michelle against the Bears. A lot of people are high on Michelle, but Darrell Henderson is there. McVay likes to utilize all running backs, so we could even see a third back being heavily involved. And Michelle hasn't been on the team that long, and the Bears have a very deep and talented front seven. So I'm staying away from Michelle. I'm kind of doing that wait and see type of thing, and then maybe he takes over later on. Let's get into some streamers. So we're going to go over quarterback, tight end, and defenses. These are the three positions that you stream the most in fantasy. So I'm going to start at quarterback. Tarian, who's the guy that you're streaming this week?
I said it earlier, Jimmy Garoppolo. The Lions, again, sorry, Walt, but I just don't know how their defense looks, and the simple fact that you get a healthy George Kittle, Raheem Mostert's healthy. A lot of their weapons are healthy last year. The San Francisco 49ers weren't a healthy team last year. Let's just call it what it is. They had a down year because of health. Now they're 100% this year again, and they're going to try to go back to where they were when they made it to the Super Bowl. I could see them scoring double-digit 30-point game, against the Lions week 1. So that's kind of a thing that I'm looking for, so Jimmy Garoppolo.
Man, we're just attacking the Lions here.
I'm sorry.
So for my quarterback, I'm going Jalen Hurts against the Falcons, another guy that I don't know if I believe in all season, but Atlanta last year allowed the 9th most rushing yards against signal callers. Hurts doesn't have the best weapons. I know that there's a lot of talk about Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith, but this is Smith's first career game, so I could see Hurts kind of running around like crazy. And, he has that mobility. He was actually a pretty decent quarterback in fantasy terms last season when he did play. He played in the real world. Jalen Hurts against the Falcons. And then let's go over to tight end. Who's the guy that you're streaming at tight end?
I will say a guy that I am streaming at tight end is Mark Andrews. Well, no, he's not really a streamer just because he's
got paid today.
Right, he just got paid today. But the Ravens wide receiver unit right now is kind of a mash unit, just like the running back is kind of a mash unit. So he's a guy that is going to get targeted an absolute lot. The Raiders linebacking core is hurt. They just signed KJ Wright, just as of yesterday. So how much of the defense does he know? And it's the Raiders defense. We don't know what they look like, and he's the one consistent guy that I know, on the Ravens, pass catchers that's going to show up and do something. So Mark Andrews is the guy I absolutely like, but it's hard to stream him because you're going to start him all year because he's, probably a lot of your number one tight ends. But I think as far as best matchups are concerned, besides, again, I'm sorry, George Kittle, right? Mark Andrews has a very solid, strong matchup as well. So.
Okay. So I went a little deeper on mine. I have Robert Tonyan against the Saints, or at the Saints. I keep picking these guys that I don't believe in for the entire season, but something about the New Orleans Saints just rubs me the wrong way. The offense, we don't know what it's going to be. Jameis Winston doesn't have a lot of pass catchers that we really trust right now. So I could see this as a type of game where the Saints struggle on offense to where their defense is on the field so much. And they're going to be really predicating on Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones and Rodgers himself. So I think Tonyan would be a guy that would have, a sneaky game. The Saints didn't really defend the tight end position too well last year. That was actually one of their weaknesses. And so I like Tonyan. He's got Rodgers' trust, and so I like him for this matchup. Let's go to a defense/special teams that you want to stream this week, Tarian.
Again, 49ers.
That's not really a stream. The 49ers. That's a locked in.
No.
Give me a deeper one.
But I think so if we're gonna go deeper, maybe the Panthers.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
It's a good one because I like a lot of the rookie quarterbacks, Dolphins, because it's week 1. It's the bright lights of these younger quarterbacks.
Mhm.
We have no idea how they're going to look, right? So I think that, the Panthers, again, they're going to come out swinging for their rookie quarterback. Who's the number 1 receiver for the Jets? Who's the number 1 option for the Jets? It's a lot of questions that I see, that's going on there. And it's the same thing. I feel the same way about the Patriots because, Mac Jones, we know he's your guy, right? But the Dolphins, they have a very good defense, very good secondary. You got Jones on one side, you got Xavier Howard on the other side. I don't like Nelson Aguilar as number 1 receiver. I'm sorry, I don't. I don't like Jacoby Myers as number 2 receiver. I don't. I think Johnny Smith is going to have a really big year at tight end. Hunter Henry, what does his health situation look like? I think Damian Harris is going to be a solid running back. But I think the Dolphins just bowled well. Like I could see a very low scoring 17-13 type of ball game, with not a lot of big significant plays downfield. So I think those will be the 2 defenses I'm looking at. Just attack the rookie quarterbacks. Sorry, Rams. Too. Rams with the Bears. Yeah. Andy Dalton's not a rookie quarterback, but he plays like a rookie quarterback. So.
Yeah, I'm not too excited as a Bears fan for that matchup. I don't. But that may be the reason why Justin Fields is not starting the season as the starting quarterback, because you're going to go against the number 1 defense from last season for your first career game. I think starting Dalton is the smart thing to do, but just put Fields in week 2. That's how I feel about it. So I went deep, and I think the Broncos would be a good streaming defense to start against the Giants. We don't really know a lot about Kenny Golladay, Saquon Barkley, and Evan Ingram's health. I know they're all banged up. They're all supposed to play week 1, but is this going to turn into a situation where we see, 1, 2, or all 3 of the guys, leave the game because they have those lingering injuries? And then Daniel Jones, I just don't trust the guy. This is a big year for him. He's got a lot of pressure on him, but I just looked this up, and I could not believe this when I looked it up. It's 51 times in 27 career games. 51 times. That's insane. So I like the Broncos in that matchup. They're really the only team that I think that is worth streaming on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
And
really quick, you think about the Broncos as well. They get Von Miller back. They get a lot of we've never honestly really seen Von Miller and Bradley Chubb really play too much together, just because separate injuries and stuff. Vic Fangio's defense, with those 2, that could be dangerous. I'm not mad at that. And Daniel Jones is a guy that like you said, he turns the ball over an awful lot. He's a guy like in fantasy football, if you want to go against a quarterback, he's the guy. If you can't tell the type of fantasy person I am, I go against punching bags a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think too hard about these decisions. It's just I see a matchup that I like and I go for it, right? And normally he's a guy that you go against. Like it's just what it is. It is what it is. So that's not a bad streaming option at all.
Yeah. And last year when I was writing the stardom sit-em articles every week, I was pretty much, if you were playing the Jets, I was starting you on the defensive side of the ball because the Jet and it worked all season. I think it was like 15 of the 16 games against the Jets, the defense scored at least 10 or more fantasy points, something ridiculous like that. So that was a good rule to have. There were a couple other ones, but
that was cover 0 Greg.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you was a wide receiver, you're going to score 150 you're going up for 150 that day. So I think my best advice as a fantasy football GM really is don't go broke taking a profit. Yeah.
Blake just picked up Denver D. It'll go well, Blake. It'll go well. All right. Well, we actually went through everything like super quick, so I'm just going to ask you, who are your Super Bowl favorites for this season?
My Super Bowl favorites?
Who do you have in the Super Bowl? Yep.
Okay. My Super Bowl sleeper, right, is Arizona Cardinals.
A team that can finish first, second, third, or fourth in their division.
Okay, so here's how I pick, right? because last year my Super Bowl favorites was the Buffalo Bills. And the reason why I pick certain teams, I'm a matchup guy, as you're going to learn a lot about me. I like matchups. And I look at who's the best team currently in the NFC. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I believe that the Arizona Cardinals on paper match up very well against them. You know, like they have two quick edge rushers. You know, you got Watt, you got Jones, you got Isaiah Simmons on the defensive side, you got Budda Baker. They're built right on the defensive side of the ball. And then they have weapons across the board. You know, you got the wide receiver, you got Hopkins, you got AJ Green, you got the running back, you got two solid running backs in James Conner and Chase Edmonds. You got the quarterback that I think that could be an MVP candidate. I personally believe if they're coached right, and that's what I believe. If they are coached right, they have all the ingredients to win a Super Bowl. They match up very, very well. Now, if you play your matchups very well, that's one thing, and you use them to your advantage, that's one thing. But I love the Arizona Cardinals. To me, they are a team that I think, depending on the division, because they have a very tough division, if they get out of that division, they're a team that I think that can make a lot of noise.
Okay. What about on the other side?
The AFC, until somebody beats the Chiefs, it's hard pressed to go against the Chiefs. Yeah. The thing about the teams in the AFC is the thing that I personally don't like about AFC teams when they play the Chiefs. They play to score with the Chiefs. Like, don't score with the Chiefs, right? You have to beat the Chiefs. You have to physically do what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did in the Super Bowl. Blitz Patrick Mahomes and beat the Chiefs. Run the ball down their throat and have time of possession. I would say the Buffalo Bills would stack up well against them, but they don't use their running backs correctly. So they can't control time of possession without the dominant backfield. So the Ravens are built to beat them. They are. But yeah. For some reason, they always want to throw the ball with them, and that's the game planning against them. I don't want to sound like a homer, but it's like the Raiders always play them very, very well. Look at how the Raiders play them compared to everybody else. That's why they struggle against the Raiders, because the Raiders play them fast and the Raiders control the time of possession. So if you can control the time of possession against them, the Titans are built to beat them, but their defense isn't strong. Mm-hmm. So until somebody beats the Chiefs, it's hard pressed to go against the Chiefs, but the Chiefs can't be beat. The one team that I feel that could beat the Chiefs are the Browns. I do like the Browns. Same thing, matchup. Running backs, the defensive ends can get to the quarterback. You got the secondary. If you can stay healthy, the Browns. I like the Browns. But until somebody beats the Chiefs, I got to go with the Chiefs. But I like the Browns. So those are the Browns and the Cardinals are my two sleepers.
Okay. So it's like Chiefs, Browns, Ravens, Titans kind of deal.
Yeah.
Okay. See,
what about you?
I feel the same way about the Chiefs. I want to pick someone else. I think the Browns definitely could. I think the Ravens definitely could, but you said it right. Like, the Ravens just, for some reason, they try to turn it into a shootout, and they definitely have the weapons and the team and the defense to beat them. But you're right. Like, they play like that. And Lamar's only won one playoff game. I think this could be the year where he brings the team to the AFC Championship, but it's hard for me to pick a team over the Kansas. Picked it, but you're right. I mean, this team may be a little bit better than last year with the offensive line looking like it has improved, and that was the one reason why they lost that Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes is running for his life. I think with this offensive line they have right now, or even last year when they're healthy, I think they could have won that game. But yeah, it's hard for me to pick a team over the Chiefs. And then on the other side, you're right. Like, I'm not saying I'm picking the Cardinals, but you're right. Like, they line up very well against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I think it's someone out of – I'm not picking one team here. I think it's someone out of the NFC West, whether it's Arizona, Seattle, the Rams, or the 49ers. Really, I mean, San Francisco, if they were healthy all season, I would go with them. But each and every year they have a ton of injuries, so it's hard to, like, if I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet them.
And see, with the 49ers, with the 49ers, what does their quarterback situation look like too? Because it's like they say if you have two quarterbacks, it's a blessing, but a lot of the times it's I've seen this movie with the 49ers before when they had Kaepernick and when they had Alex Smith. Like, you take Alex Smith out halfway through the season, are they going to do that this year with Garoppolo? And what does that team look like if they do that? Mm-hmm. So it's just consistency, like, and it's we know who's lining up, in Tampa Bay, like we know their scenario, like we know these things, right? So
yeah, but will I be surprised if it's Chiefs Buccaneers? No.
Nah.
And will I like that? I mean, yeah, I would like to see, and I'm not a Chiefs fan by any means, but I would like to see, if they played again, I would like to see Mahomes take down Brady. But you probably wouldn't like.
I mean, okay, so last season, I was really excited because I got to see the Chiefs play like firsthand, and I personally am not that impressed by the Chiefs. I think that they're just speed and a lot of window dressing. I think that's what they are. And I was excited to see a team like Tampa Bay shut them down, like, because I'm tired of, because it's like every time they do certain things, I know what it's going to be. I am so tired of that little Travis Kelce dip around underneath pass. That is so, like, I when somebody goes in motion, that's what's going to happen, right? And it's just like NFL teams drive me crazy when they don't stop that play. And to see Tampa Bay and their linebacker come out and basically Devin White basically say, like, I'm not impressed by the Chiefs, they're just fast. Finally, you know what I'm saying? So yeah. I think that's why I was excited just to see that, because I'm like, if NFL is a copycat league, I want all 32 teams to look at how they played them and play them the exact same way. The Raiders have absolutely no defense, and stop them and shut them out in the second half with no defense. It's like, that's what they are. If you just stop this misdirection, they just confuse you. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. But this year they're going to be a lot tougher because of the offensive line. But whoever comes out this year, it's going to be fully earned. Not saying the Super Bowl is never fully earned, but it's going to be fully earned this year, because I feel like every team is like, there's an equal playing field from team 1 through 6. I think there's an even playing field. So we'll see, Yep.
We will see indeed. Thursday night football, Buccaneers, Cowboys, start of the season. What we learned today, the Kansas City Chiefs are not that good, according to Tarian. We will be back next week, same time, same day. We will go over a loaded week 1. We'll go over waiver wires, start them, sit them, and it's time, guys. It's fantasy time. So we'll see you next week, and we are your fantasy GMs.